Hey, it's Kyle here, and today I'll be reviewing Armada by Ernest Cline. Many of you might know Ernest Cline is the author of the highly popular book Ready Player One, which I've also reviewed here on Reread Books. It's one of the more popular books that have been published in recent years, so I think most people, even if you haven't read Ready Player One, you probably recognize Ernest Cline's name because of that. If you have read Ready Player One, I think you'll really enjoy Armada. Armada very much has the same sort of spirit to it that Ready Player One does. Both really center a whole lot of the spirit, background, themes of the books are both heavily rooted in kind of nerd culture, all sorts of pop culture, especially from the 80s and 90s, movies, books, video games, comics, anything nerdy. Ernest Cline really draws elements from, incorporates it to his storyline. So if you're into that type of stuff, his books are even extra awesome because you get these little extra benefits of understanding all these little inside jokes and references and stuff like that. But even if you're not into that type of stuff, the storyline is still very interesting. So Ready Player One was definitely one of my favorite books I've read in recent years. I didn't enjoy Armada quite as much as Ready Player One, but I still thought it was awesome. It was like if I was doing a scale of like 1 to 10, Ready Player One was like a 9.5, pretty close to a perfect score. Armada is probably maybe like a 8.5, 8.8, still great, but just I didn't quite enjoy it quite as much as Ready Player One. So the basic plot behind Armada is the main character is Zach Lightman, which is a very sci-fi sounding name, and he is a teenager in the Pacific Northwest in a small town in Oregon. This is set sometime, I don't know if it ever says the exact date, but it's kind of implying it's a few years in the future from our current time, so it's not 2016, but it's not so far ahead. It might just be like 5 or 10 years ahead of us, but roughly the same time period. And Zach is super obsessed with all things nerdy. He's really into video games, really into old movies, especially from the 80s and 90s, comics, books. He's really obsessed with them. And one reason he is that his father actually passed away when he was a baby, and his dad was actually only 18 or 19 at the time. And his dad had been super obsessed by like 80s and 90s pop culture type stuff. So his son kind of grew up trying to reconnect with his dad that he really never knew since he passed away when he was a baby, and his mom had happened to save all his dad's collectible stuff. So he has all his old VHS tapes, all his old video games, all his old books, notes, that type of stuff. So Zach really became obsessed with all that stuff in his attempt to really reconnect with his dad. And his new stuff came out in that same genre as he just kept on going more and more into it. And the thing he becomes really obsessed with is a video game called Armada. A hugely popular game in this book. Basically, it's portrayed as basically probably the most popular game on the planet. Kind of like a lot of video games where basically your humanity, you're trying to fight off alien invasion. Armada is the one that kind of focuses more on spacecrafts and trying to fight off the aliens in space. There's also like a companion game to it that focuses on more fighting the alien invasion actually on the surface, and both these games are hugely popular. And Zach plays both of them, but he really prefers Armada. And Armada has a kind of worldwide ranking system, so players can kind of see where they're ranked, and Zach's actually ranked in the top 10 in the world, so he's a very highly acclaimed player. All this kind of sets up the very basic start of the plot, which is basically one day Zach's in class, he looks out the window, and he thinks he sees a spaceship from the video game Armada. And down the rabbit hole we go. And basically, Zach trying to figure out, is he crazy? Is he hallucinating this stuff? Or is elements from this video game actually happening? And then him trying to figure out what's the truth and what's going on. And there goes the plot. And I really won't get too much more of that because I don't really get into spoiling plot points. But really what I just mentioned is stuff that's kind of covered in the first couple chapters of the book, so don't think by any means I spoiled any plot points. That's really all the kind of intro into what this book's all about. So One, if you like Ready Player One and you haven't read Armada yet, I would definitely recommend it. I think you'll really enjoy it. If you're into kind of nerd culture, if you love 80s and 90s and even 2000 kind of classic nerdy sci-fi stuff, be it movies, books, video games, all sorts of stuff like that, I think you'll really enjoy Armada. If you just enjoy sci-fi literature in general, I think you'll really enjoy Armada. Ernest Cline is a hugely successful and talented author that clearly has a passion for these topics that he explores in these books. He's definitely highlights all these great elements from these sci-fi and nerd classics from the 80s and 90s and incorporates it into his books. And he flat out gives credit and homage to the stuff that he's using as the backbone of this book. And if you're really into a lot of classic 80s and 90s stuff, you might think, well, some of the plot points of this book sounds like stuff that's happened in other movies and books. Is he just ripping it off? He actually kind of addresses this at the beginning of the book, and the plot kind of explains why this book feels similar to maybe other movies and books that you have read or watched. So I strongly encourage you to check out Armada by Ernest Cline. Really look forward to what the author has next in store, since I've enjoyed his first two books so much. So hope you enjoyed my review of Armada by Ernest Cline. I'd also, if you haven't seen it yet, encourage you to check out my review for Ready Player One on this channel. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to Reader Books, like this video, and I'll see you the next time.